knowledge sharing mission through a series of interviews with marketing leaders from all over the world. And we're thrilled to have Rosie here with us today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to CMO Chats. I'm Rosie Guest, and I'm the CMO at Apex Group.
Amazing. Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about the Apex Group?
Sure. Apex Group is a global financial solutions provider. We predominantly service asset managers, but I've been at Apex for 10 years and it's gone from 350 people to 13,000. So a big global organization servicing the asset management community.
And as the CMO, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Apex Group?
Yeah, so my role at Apex is, well, it's very broad. I think marketing is often underrated when it comes to how many things that we're involved in. So I cover all of the internal communications, external communications, marketing, and so on. But I think as a CMO, your role is really quite strategic with other functions across the business. So really aligning with product, with sales, with business strategy, and then filtering that down into the team to make sure that the marketing and comms function is delivering on business objectives.
So how did you get into marketing? Obviously, you've been with the Apex Group for a really long time. How did you sort of find this passion or this desire to be a CMO?
It's a great question. I actually started my career in sales. People always are surprised when I say that because sales and marketing, obviously, people tend to think they lock heads or lock horns. But I think the way in which marketing has evolved over the last sort of 10 to 15 years, it's become much more of a commercial job than it used to be. So would I be in marketing if it was this stage of my life 20 years in the past? Probably not. I don't know if I would find that version of marketing as interesting as I do this. So as I kind of got into sales and commercial, it naturally evolved into more brand marketing. So kind of out of account management into that marketing piece. And I've just loved the way that the marketing function has evolved over the last decade in terms of the technology we can use, the ways in which, as I mentioned before, you're involved in so much business strategy. And there's such a variety of things to do, particularly when you get to be in the CMO role. So many different elements of things that you can work on. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, not necessarily that I qualified in a marketing degree and was always wanting to be in marketing, but it's just naturally evolved. I think it's well aligned with my skill set. And now I can bring those two things together, that kind of commercial element of the sales, but also with the creative flair that I have as a person as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. Previously, sales and marketing were very separate, but now there is such a crossover. Like for me, I came from SaaS sales, and obviously now I work here. It just seems to be a more natural transition. And I was an account manager as well, like yourself. So it seems to be a natural path. Okay, perfect. So being a CMO, like you said, you manage a lot of things. You're covering a lot of initiatives, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of teams you're interacting with. As of right now, what is your main focus this quarter or this half of the year? What is one of the biggest things you're focusing on this year?
So the marketing focus at the moment is aligned with business objectives, as it always has to be. And our priorities at the moment are really defining our value proposition as a solution selling business. So we've made circa 50 acquisitions, 50, in the last 6 to 7 years. So that means we've got a whole heap of products and services that we have to translate to the market. But we also don't want to be selling things in silos. The reason that the business has made these acquisitions is to deliver value to clients. So our role as marketing is to really distill that value. What's the proposition and how is that specific to each different audience type? So big focus at the moment is real strong alignment with the product team, real strong alignment with the sales team. So we have really clear go-to-market strategies, that we're really efficient as a marketing function. One of the things I've been talking about a lot recently with the different functions across our business is marketing can't add value if you're bringing us in at the end of the journey. We have to be there from the beginning. And I think that we have a responsibility in marketing. I think there's still, even though we just talked about how marketing has evolved massively, I think unless you're in marketing or very close to marketing, perhaps that evolution is not as well understood by other functions and departments. So it's our role to really help them understand so that we can deliver that value. So that is another focus. So there's the external piece, making sure that we're messaging our products and our marketing effectively out to clients, prospects, etc. But also the internal marketing piece of educating the broader business on how we can add value. And the other element for the marketing function is that we're a relatively lean function for the size of business in terms of numbers of marketers. So we have to be really effective and really efficient. So it's process, discipline, and tech are kind of my three core focus areas at the moment to make sure we can deliver.
Sales and marketing are aware of the biggest changes in marketing because we're so close to it, and maybe other departments and areas aren't. What would you say is the biggest challenge marketers or CMOs like yourself face today when they're doing their job?
It's when the pace is fast. So when the business is under pressure, the pace is fast, there are big targets to reach and other business objectives that perhaps don't naturally align with what people would think a marketing team would be doing. That pressure then has a knock-on impact on what the marketing team do. And I can see in those scenarios, and I see it at Apex sometimes, that you fall back into these legacy ways of working. So being more of a reactive function than a proactive function. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And one of the things I've been talking about a lot with my leadership team is air cover. So for the broader marketing team, our responsibility to protect the team so that they can get on with their roles. I really think being quite rigid with where we have a process that's agreed with another function, you have to really protect that for the team, especially when the pace is fast. And another thing that I always talk about is slowing down to speed up. We have to take it back a notch, slow down, figure out what we're trying to achieve, and then we can deliver faster and more effectively. And when you're under pressure and you have to deliver, and you can fall back into that execution model, which is actually not the best way of delivering value as a function. So that's a big challenge for CMOs to overcome.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think also it's harder to get, I guess, new initiatives and new ideas approved rather than sometimes it's quicker to just do it the old way that maybe isn't the best way, but it's pre-approved and so you can get it done. Okay, so interesting. So let's talk quickly about marketing and sales because we've brought it up and both of us have come from sales roles into marketing. Out of all of the marketing initiatives that you're running at Apex, is there one that your sales team gets the most excited about or is the most grateful for, or you say this quarter we're running this initiative and they're like, yes, we know that works? Is there one that jumps out at them?
We've had a big this is not new, but we've had a big focus recently on campaign alignment. And I think that's another thing that we have to think about in marketing or as a CMO is just because you've done something once or you've implemented a process once doesn't mean that it's going to continue to be followed or it's going to continue to be effective. So always revisiting how things work, and especially when you're in a high growth, fast-paced environment, things change all the time, so you've got to be able to adapt. And so I think what we've been focusing on at the moment in terms of alignment with sales is that kind of tied up campaign process and the end-to-end, and what is marketing doing, what is sales doing, almost going back to the basics of what in the RACI model is everybody doing, just to remind everyone where roles and responsibilities are and how we can be most effective. And I think that's that revisiting of that model and how we work together and how we collaborate, and making sure that marketing are involved early on and understand the objective that the sales team have, we can therefore deliver. And I think that's definitely been beneficial for the sales and marketing relationship for us recently, just revisiting that process and tightly aligning on it. And then I think as well, another one would be, again, being able to quickly react to market changes and provide the sales team with toolkits to go to market. So an obvious one in the financial services industry recently has been the impact of tariffs from the US administration. That's massive for everyone. It's particularly big for our industry. So for us to be able to work with product, work with sales, get some essentially a sales toolkit together, get some comms out to clients and support them in their messaging on that topic quickly, I think they appreciate that as well. So it's that kind of juggle of the longer term campaign, how do we work together consistently over time, but also just being able to react to market conditions and provide them with some support and a buffer to talk to their clients.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a really good handle and good relationship with the sales team. Is there a marketing strategy or initiative that you think has wielded the most success? Obviously, we're talking about running long-term campaigns and being sort of aligned and then giving them the toolkit when things are changing and the industry changes. Is there one sort of initiative that you've run that you feel has wielded the most success or been or is continuously successful for you guys?
There's no one specific initiative. And I also think I've talked previously in interviews about it's kind of a short story strategy is to kill your darlings. So that's when you're writing a short story, usually your favorite part of the short story doesn't fit that well or isn't that good, and it's really difficult to let it go and just delete it out of the story. So I learned this when I was doing literature, and I apply that same sort of methodology to how I market and how I run the team, because you can get quite attached as marketers, particularly to certain creatives or certain campaigns that you spend a lot of time on, you think are really great, and then going back to what we just talked about, market conditions change, or there's a structural change within the business. And for example, Apex has just restructured its product department. So we've had to realign the marketing function to, again, realign back with the product function. So I think without specifically an initiative, I think it's the ability to adapt has been very successful for us. And also, I guess, a longer term thing that's been important for us is the ability to communicate the funnel and talk about the right metrics with the right people. So they're not specifically outbound marketing initiatives, but they're things that have enabled us to be successful within Apex.
Okay, amazing. Who is Apex ICP?
Biggest priority audience for us would be CEOs, CFOs, if we're talking personas, CEOs, CFOs within asset managers between upwards of $1 billion assets under management would probably be our perfect target audience. But because of the way in which we've grown so much with so many acquisitions, we've got multiple different audience segments. So it would really depend on the product or the value proposition as to who the ideal target audience would be.
Yeah, it's when we speak to companies like as large as Apex Group, and having done so many acquisitions over the last 9 years as well, there's so many different, audiences that you can sell to and you can market to. So that question's always a little harder for bigger companies. Given what Ortus do, I'm interested to understand a little bit more about field marketing, and maybe now as a CMO or previously in the past, it'd be interesting to know like what is in store at Apex. Do you guys do field marketing? Is it more sort of online that you're currently doing campaigns and initiatives?
Yeah, field marketing. It's an interesting one, isn't it? So I would say over the last 3 years, we brought field marketing in, then we removed field marketing, and then we've brought field marketing back. So during COVID, for example, field marketing didn't really exist, because for us, the field marketing team is supporting on the ground, in region, with more traditional marketing. As most people did, really shifted towards digital after that, which continued for a while. And then as people started to come back to offices, in-person events started to ramp back up, everything kind of moved back offline, although webinars are still a thing. They're not as effervescent as they were then. So we've recently brought it back. It's a pared down version. So the other teams are bigger. So you've got your marketing ops, portfolio marketing, demand marketing, or comms, all of those are bigger. So it's a smaller team. But I still think there's a place for field marketing, because there's still a need there for those, particularly for us in a global business where you've got offices in lots of different locations. Digital can be omnipresent, and especially if predominantly the language that you're speaking, for us it's English, irrespective of location in most cases. So that team can market globally. But when it comes to field marketing or that kind of on the ground support, you do need a different specialism. So I think there's a place for it, but I think the function is much smaller than it used to be. You just have to be a bit strategic about where you're spending and where you place your marketers. That's another thing that is a luxury and also a curse in some ways. Being a global business is that the decisions about where you put your marketers are quite important. And we have a mix of different specialisms in different locations. But with field marketing, you either need to have them working strange hours if they're in a country where they're not next to the people, or you need to place them in the office with those people. So what we tend to do is focus on our priority regions for field marketing.
I guess today's day and age, and like you said, the field marketing function and team is much smaller. Budgets are also smaller. So you really have to be strategic on where you're spending it. Speaking of budgets and spending, I guess, how are you, or do you, or have you, this is always a hard question for everyone to answer, measure ROI from an event? What are you looking at the end to achieve? Is it brand awareness or ops created? It's very different for everyone I speak to. So I'm always interested to see what someone has to say.
Yeah. In our industry, events spend is a big spend. It tends to be a really solid place for the sales team to generate leads. So there's always that push-pull between how much do we want to spend on events and how much do we want to spend on digital, and getting the balance right. It shifts really within the year. And again, going back to what we said earlier, you need to be able to adapt. But we've taken quite a surgical approach in a way to events. So we'll decide up front what's the purpose of the event. And if the purpose is it's just a speaker slot, it's kind of a brand play, it's a thought leadership, perhaps we're not looking necessarily to generate leads, although we will always hope for that. Whereas if it's a sales event and we're sending a number of salespeople, we will be quite measured in what we expect out of the event to measure an ROI, and we put that all into our CRM system. So we'll agree with the sales team up front, number of opportunities that they expect to create, value of opportunities that we think would be a good return on investment. And as that all goes into the CRM system, we're able to then look at that over time to see what events are delivering, because otherwise you fall into the trap of, oh, this event was great last year and all you've got to go on is hearsay. So I think it's important to have a mix of, first of all, understanding what you're aiming to achieve, and some of it's not measurable as well, the brand stuff. But yeah, if the purpose of the event, which in most scenarios for us is to generate leads, then you have to have an agreement between sales and marketing, clear KPIs before you attend, and a way of measuring that through whatever system it is that you use.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, of tracking it through the CRM, it is hearsay if I say, well, last year we had a great time at this event, but if I never added that tag to any of those ops created or any of those leads created, you're not getting any of the recognition for that event. So yeah, everyone has a similar stance in that data, and making sure your data is clean and organized is really a big part of it, so you can track it through. Okay, we'll head to some of the closing questions, which are much broader. So what advice would you give to someone that was starting out in marketing?
I would say don't be afraid to get close to departments that don't seem like a natural fit. I think as a marketer, to be taken seriously, you need to really align yourself with the business, which we've talked about a fair bit today. And that might mean spending time with CFO. That might mean spending time with compliance, with IT. And actually what you find is you need all of those departments. The CFO controls the budget ultimately. IT control all of the tech, ultimately. Compliance can stop marketing campaigns if they need to, particularly in a highly regulated industry. So I think, your social capital within the business is really important, but your understanding of the other functions and their drivers is really key. And I wouldn't underestimate that, even starting out early on. And also for a brand new marketing, if you're able to get yourself to some events, marketing events, where you're learning about different skill sets, different specialisms within marketing, because there are so many different avenues that you can take. Obviously, when you end up in the CMO role, you've got all of that. But before you go there or get there, if that's your ambition, there are so many different avenues that you can explore, whether that be kind of the tech side in marketing ops or digital, whether that be more on the comms side. So I would say explore the industry, connect with people, whether it's virtually or in person, and don't be afraid to figure out the business and get to know other departments.
Amazing. I do think, your social standing and also understanding compliances, what they would want from marketing or their needs and their challenges is how you get buy-in from everyone to get it done. So really good advice. Question I have, what do you think, and how would I phrase this? So CMOs today have very different opportunities than CMOs might have had in the past. What do you think is the biggest, positive opportunity that CMOs have now compared to maybe 10 years ago?
I think CMOs have the ability to move into something different now. I think with that role broadening so much and taking on more of a commercial lens and being so spread across a business, you have visibility of all those different things. Therefore, if your next step would be looking at becoming a COO or a CEO, I think that's open to marketers now. And I don't think it was as much before. Also board positions, previously boards, if they were looking for new people, they're always looking for people with finance backgrounds, legal backgrounds, compliance backgrounds, audit backgrounds, those kinds of things. There's more of an appetite for marketing now, because I think people can see the commercial benefits and the connectivity that can open up, and the mindset of a marketer is a slightly different skill set that now potentially is seen as valuable, and it wasn't before. So that's a big shift.
Amazing. And this one you might need some time to think about. Everyone does. If you could describe marketing in one word, what would that word be?
Exploratory. I would say exploratory for so many reasons, because what are we trying to achieve as marketers? We're trying to explore and understand the products, the services that we're selling. We're trying to explore and understand our clients, their needs, their wants. We're trying to explore and understand the business and how we fit into that. So, and technology, you know, all of these things that we now have, we need to, every day is exploration. Every day is different. Every day there's something new. I think that's the great thing about marketing, is because it's changing all the time, because there's always something new to do. You've always got something to explore. So yeah, exploratory.
That's actually the first time I've heard that one, but I think it's a very good fitting word, like a very good descriptive word. I've had some weird ones, but that one's a good one.
Good.